On Thursday, CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan spoke with a Trump supporter named Mary Quintanilla about her views on Facebook fact checking. So, Facebook, I don't know if you've been on Facebook. Some people don't, are not on Facebook. Some people are. You might have noticed that they have fact checking. Okay, so if there's a false article or a misleading article, they'll put a little disclaimer on it. All right. So now, Donnie O'Sullivan and goes and talks to this woman. She's a Trump supporter. And, well, he asked her, well, what do you think about the Facebook fact checking? And the answer, of course, is, well, see for yourself.
I first met Mary Quintanilla at CPAC in Texas.
I've had some notifications with regards to maybe some of the COVID issues. So they'll say that's, fact checked and may not be accurate. And I just say, okay, and then I still post it. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
She's a Trump supporter and skeptical of most fact checks she sees online. There's a video that Eric Trump retweeted a few days after the election that purported to show Trump ballots being set on fire.
Oh, I've seen that video.
That's false. The election officials who control in Virginia those set of ballots said they're not real ballots. Is that not a good service that something like that gets when it's shown to be false?
No.
Why not?
Because why can't somebody say, how do we know that's real? Aren't we smart enough to say, whose video is this?
Eric Trump wasn't smart enough. That video played into the idea on election week that there was all this mass fraud. It played into the idea.
No.
Are you often seeing these labels?
Yeah, lots. And I click on it, and it says, see why?
And you read the fact check?
Yeah, and it's more baloney.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part, not everything, but it's kind of like the same old, same old. I mean, the problem is that you have people like myself who don't agree with their fact checking. How do we know? Really? The audit is showing that they are actually imitation ballots?
With this video that you shared, right? That
Yes.
the fact checkers are saying is false.
Yes.
I mean, I know in that
And
I know in that one paragraph.
Yeah.
You probably disagree with every single
No,
thing.
we're going to disagree with the fact checkers of Facebook because they already have their narrative set up with
But did
their
they
fact
write in
checkers.
this-
No, not
They
necessarily.
go through it all.
Facebook says all of its fact checkers are nonpartisan and go through a rigorous certification process.
Facebook is a place where you share information and you can kind of pick and choose which information you think is good and which information you think is not so great.
But if there's so much information, are you sort of cherry picking your facts?
You
then?
could. I mean, whose reality is important but your own reality?
But shouldn't we have a shared understanding of
You
it?
can't do it. It's impossible. It's impossible because of the bias.
Oh, boy. Whose reality is more important than your own? Reality, like factual reality. And look, understand, this is why we can't get through to these people, okay? They would rather hold on to comfortable falsehoods than face reality, than face facts. I mean, again, they talked about alternative facts. They're literally living in alternative facts. And so they don't believe in information, real information. They don't trust fact checkers. They still spread disinformation because guess what? It makes them feel good. They get this good feeling from it. Yeah, I'm special. I'm better. I know more. I was gonna say woke, but then they hate that term. Oh yeah, no, I'm. You're the sheep. I'm the one who's actually knows what's going on, and you don't. And the reason you believe it is because you go along the mainstream, but I'm outside the mainstream. I see what's going on. Yeah, I know the real information from www.americanpatriot, balls.com. I don't know. Look, and that's the thing about conspiracy theories, okay? And why they take off on the right wing is because they make you feel good, especially in times of uncertainty. And we certainly live in uncertain times. Right now, the Republican Party itself is facing an existential crisis. And that existential crisis, of course, is of their own design. And so, look, the Republican Party, they serve the rich, they serve the donors. And I'm not saying the Democratic Party doesn't also do the same. But they do so, the Republicans do so more than anyone else. And so that party, though, in order to keep that dynamic going on, well, they have to lie. So, and come up with culture war issues. And so that's the thing. you have this focus on culture war issues because when it comes to policy positions, the Republican Party is generally just the party of giving more and more money to the rich, deregulating corporations, cutting taxes for wealthy Americans, and that's essentially it. And so in order to keep that going, because guess what? Those positions aren't actually popular with the vast majority of the American people, even conservatives. Well, you got to use the culture war. You got to use white grievance politics. So, and understand that if you've watched Fox News for any amount of time, you would think that the country's falling apart. You think the immigrants are pouring across the southern border like a scene from World War Z, right? Just a gigantic writhing mass of immigrants. Oh my God, they're coming. And so they evoke this language and these images in order to make you afraid. I mean, the terrorists are coming, the immigrants are coming, the liberals hate you, there's crime, Black Lives Matter is burning down entire cities. Entire cities. Well, what cities have burnt to the ground? Have any burnt to the ground? Any? I mean, there was an Arby's that caught on fire. Press F for respect. Okay. It's going to be all right, though. The Arby's was insured. It's been rebuilt. You can go get your curly fries, right? And your beef and cheddar. It's fine. You're going to be all right. Speaking of riots, have you ever seen England after a football match? Overturned cars everywhere. I mean, it's bad. Cars get set on fire. People riot over sports. And it's worse than anything you've ever seen during the George Floyd protest. But it doesn't matter. They use that fear because it turns off people's brain. It just kind of empties it out. And of course, Fox News and conservative media have a way of filling that back up in order to keep you afraid. So they give you so many different reasons to make sure that you're always fearful of someone or something. And so, and of course, it has a secondary effect, which is obviously one of the major reasons why they do it too, is because it keeps you engaged, keeps your eyeballs glued to the TV. It gives you ratings, clicks, it gets you views. And of course, the Republican Party also operates as an arm, Fox News operates as an arm of the Republican Party. And so, it represents Republican candidates, Republican interests, and directs people to give to Republican causes. And so that's part of the game. So now, again, going back to the influence, if you believe in all this crazy stuff, and you believe that Fox News and Newsmax or whatever is the only source of information that's actually giving you real information, you're going to tune everything else out. And so it makes you more apt to believe, like, for example, if they come and say, well, cutting taxes to the rich helps you as a worker, and socialism is bad, and actually being in a more democratic workplace is bad for you, unions are bad for you, all this stuff is bad for you, well, then you're not going to be in favor of that. And that's propaganda. That's how propaganda works. And so, again, if they also use it against Democrats too. So again, they tell you Democrats are evil, they're killing your babies, they're going to turn your wife into a Muslim, they're going to force feminize you and then murder and dethrone God, all that stuff. And so if you believe that, it doesn't matter how much Republicans are screwing you over and picking your pocket, you're still going to vote for them. And that's the other thing. So now, as long as it's not a Democrat. And look, you can draw a line, a parallel between, of course, this phenomenon and a phenomenon that happens over on the Democratic side, the blue no matter who people. Now, the only difference, of course, there is that the Republicans are actually as bad as we say they are on the issues. It just means that Democrats also can get away with not being that good because they can always point at Republicans for actually being legitimately worse, even though Democrats can get away with not being that much better. So, but anyway, just to show you, though, that this is far more effective on the right because disinformation is consumed more readily and spreads more easily on the right wing. The same with coronavirus, in a way. And so, effectively, all of this has created an existential crisis And that's, of course, because their base is shrinking. And I'm not saying that just because they're dying more of COVID, which they happen to be. No, they're primarily older Americans. They were always older Americans. Fox News always had a much older viewer base. The average, I think, Fox News viewer is like 72. And so they have that. There's also a big demographic problem. Younger generations are more diverse. They're more progressive. And they know that, which is why they're doing everything they can to stop young people from engaging in the political process and doubling down and tripling down in conspiracies, voter suppression as well. Look, all the voter fraud stuff, by the way, that's all about trying to get laws in the books to limit people from voting and to consolidate their own power. And look, they have the Supreme Court now for a generation. That matters. And of course, every time they lose power in a state to a Democrat, they immediately come in, or I should say, before they leave, they strip that seat and position of power. So, and that's what Republicans do. They know that the writing is on the wall. They know they're not going to win elections in the future unless they cheat, break the rules, lie, and rig things in their favor. And that's why, of course, the conspiracies are all over the place and on the right wing. And that's why the base, of course, believes those conspiracies. All this, I mean, again, adds to the perception that we are living in uncertain times, especially if you're on the right wing, because everything is a disaster. And so they'll cling to that false reality for as much as they can, for as long as they can, without actually changing the core of what they are, a party that serves mainly the interests of corporations and the rich. And using racism, xenophobia, fear to do it. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.